Hey, I'm just making sure I'm live. And I'm creepily smiling because Dawn always says that I look really mad when I first come on. So if you are joining me, please say hi. I would love to see who's here. And of course, if you're catching the replay, hashtag replay is great, but try to tag me if you can, if you have any specific questions, because it seems like I don't always get the notifications. So I am still in the man cave with poor lighting. I have Chi Chi right here with me. Okay. And we are going to tell you about these 5 processes that I came up with that I think are going to help you be a lot more organized in your business. So let me share my screen and we will get into these. My Facebook. All right. So the 5 business processes to make you more productive. So we're going to talk about organization, onboarding, the planning process, some productivity systems that you can use. And at the end, we're going to talk about mindset. So first, talk about how you can create some systems to get you organized. So I'm going to share a few ideas with you, but I just want you to remember that this is trial and error. Everything you do in your business is going to be trial and error for a while until you figure out the right system for you. So I want you to think about how you are currently doing things right now and what things need to improve. So if you're a mess and you can't figure out why, then some of these things are going to help you. But if you have some sort of system, but it's like you can't figure out why you still don't feel productive, then visualizing your workflow to build your system is going to be super helpful. So let me give you an example. This right here, this Facebook Live training. So the way that I did this, my workflow for this was I started outlining what I wanted to talk about. I brainstormed a little bit, of course, first, and decided that the things that I wanted to talk about, but then I created an outline. And from that outline, I started making bullet points. I did some research to make sure that I was getting it right for you, that, I was basically reaffirming my opinion on things and making sure that the data was lining up with that, that the things that I am teaching you are actually useful for everyone and not just me. So then what I did was create the slides. And now I am presenting this to you, but I'm going to download this video afterwards. All of that is going to be grouped together in a folder in Google Drive. So, which leads me to the next one, is creating categories. So when you have a folder system like Google Drive, or if you're just, on your computer, see all the documents you have, all the spreadsheets, all the images, and see if you can create some categories from that. So I have Facebook Live categories in there. I have one folder that says Facebook Live, and then I have subfolders within that folder that say what each one is for. So you might want folders for your clients, but then a main folder that says clients, but then within that, each client has a folder. So this is very helpful for productivity because if you met with Susan last Wednesday and you have all of her stuff in that folder and you're meeting with her again next Wednesday, you can easily go to that folder and see everything that you talked about, anything that goes along with what you're coaching her on or whatever the session is about. And it keeps you very in tune with what's going on, so you can reference these things right beforehand. And it obviously keeps you productive. And then, learning how to prioritize your to-do list. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but prioritizing things is a little, it's kind of an art form if you think about it, but like really what it comes down to is if you're prioritizing things in your life, what is seriously most important to you? Like, be honest about what's most important to you. That should be your number one priority. If you're prioritizing things for your business, I like to focus on the things that are going to make me money first, because if I can make money, there's a lot of stuff I can outsource. And so the things that are going to make me money become the top priority, and then anything underneath that becomes a slightly less high priority, because I could potentially hire somebody to do it. If it's something that needs to be done by me and it has a due date, it's also going to go at the top of the list. Otherwise, I try to delegate whatever I can. And then also, we have the project management tools that I talk about all the time. I'm not going to go into depth with those, but you know what they are. If you want more information on project management tools, there is a unit all about this. There's a video on how to determine which tool is best for you. And then there's a video on Asana, one on Trello, and one on ClickUp. So you can get a little overview of how they each look and maybe test one of those. I did also want to mention emails. So this, in the same way that you organize your folders, you can do this for email. So if you use Gmail, there's they already kind of have a folder structure laid out for you with the social, promotions, and updates. So you have certain things land in those folders already. You can actually set rules or filters to actually make things go to those folders. And this is really great so that you're not getting a promotional email in your inbox and then your phone's not alerting you, and then you don't become distracted by that. So if you just have it set to go into a different folder, then you don't see it until you actually sit down to go through your email. And then you can block out time to actually sit down and go through your email and see these other things. You can also create labels and categories. So, for me, all my bills are in a category. It is just a category called bills. And when I go into it, I see the most recent emails I've gotten from, power company, whatever it is. And I then take that information and I put it into a spreadsheet, because I love spreadsheets, and which is my budget tracker. I call it my wealth management spreadsheet. So, like, these are the ways that you can get yourself organized to get into that workflow, and you know exactly where things are located, and you can easily grab one thing and go to the other and have all your information flowing and not bogging you down because you're trying to find something, All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is onboarding new clients. And I did want to say, please let me know if you would like, I can take some screenshots or something of my folders if you want some examples of how to structure things. I'm more than happy to do that. Okay, so with onboarding new clients, I want you to think about this a little bit before what most people tell you to say or do. A lot of people will say the onboarding starts after they become your client, like at the payment point with the welcome email, whatever. I don't like that theory. I think your onboarding should start with the discovery call. So you've got an audience and they have found you through social media or whatever it may be, and you get them on a discovery call. That person is not just a warm lead anymore. I would call them a hot lead, and you're actually trying to sell them your program. So you're actively trying to onboard them, and that's why this should be the first step in onboarding. And then you can move through the rest of it. So I have an example of how this could look. You can move things around however you want, but these are the things that are very important, I think, for onboarding, that need to be considered. And you also need to make sure that they flow well. So from your, let's say, first, let's use an example of just being a one-on-one session, right? So you have a discovery call and it goes really well and they want to book with you. So you give them your booking link. From there, what do? They have to pay you. They probably have a form to fill out, right? So you want to make sure that your payment is connected to your booking link. And you want to also make sure that your intake form is very it's flows in a way that not only are you getting good information from them, but they are understanding exactly what you're going to provide them with. So you might have check boxes of like, if you're asking them what they want to work on with you, you might have some check boxes with options so they can just check off. If you fill out my intake form, you're gonna choose from things like promotional ideas, marketing strategy, time management, etc. So, I'm actually honestly still working on my intake form. I have been working with some clients' feedback to make sure that it is the way that it should be. And this is going to be an ongoing process because you're always tweaking things, right? Um, so, depending on your system, you would either take the payment first or they would fill out the intake form first. But either way, once they've done that and they submit it, the next thing is going to be some sort of welcome. So whether it is they just get an email that's like, thank you for booking your session. Here's the link to Zoom. Our session will be on this day at this time. And the cool thing about like Acuity is that you can actually change what that email looks like. So you can make it sound more like you. Or you can just use their regular email. Either way, the point is they're getting something. It's that they just paid for something. You should be giving them something in return, something tangible. It makes them feel good. And they're like, okay, yes, this definitely went through. So that's in a nutshell what it should be like for one-on-one sessions. If you are giving somebody, or if you're selling somebody a program of some sort, a mastermind, course, group coaching, whatever it may be, it starts out the same way, except that they may not have a booking link. So you're going to go from a discovery call, perhaps straight to payment, or to a landing page that has a payment button on it. You will still want to have an intake form, but then once they've paid you and filled out the form, the welcome portion of it becomes a little bit different. So you want to make sure that you're including the right things in this. So they receive a welcome email and it has things like, thank you for signing up. I'm really excited to have you in this program. These are the details of the program. This is what you just purchased, basically, is what it's telling you. So you might have a schedule. You might have um, a video introducing them to some things, or just you saying thank you for joining. You should also be including links to like a Facebook group if that's where it's going to be. And if it's a course, like how can they access the course? So basically, the welcome is, the information that they need from you. You may also want to have collected their physical address in the intake form to send them like a swag bag of some sort so that, if you have any kind of products that they might be using, if you sign up with me, maybe I'll send you a sloth planner. You know what I mean? Like things like that. So the welcome part it's not only about the emails, it can also be about a welcome kit. It's something that you do to give them a tangible peace after they've just paid you this money to work with you, especially if something isn't starting right away. So you can include the expectations and the tech that you're going to be using either in the welcome email, in a separate email, or on the onboarding call. I do recommend also sending an email, even if you're going to talk about it on the onboarding call. So what you're doing with these is you're setting the expectations, which means the expectations you have of them, but also your boundaries and your standard operating procedures. So you want to communicate with them when they can contact you, when to expect a reply from you, how to contact you, and then, of course, the schedule of events, where to find you, if it's all going to be on Zoom, if everything's going to be in a Facebook group. They're going to want to know what tech they need. So, do they need Zoom? Do they need access to the Facebook group? Do they need maybe Basecamp? Maybe that's how you want to communicate with them, or perhaps you're just going to use WhatsApp or Voxer or something like that. Um, and then if you are providing them with a course, do they need access to like Kajabi, Member Vault? How are the modules going to be sent to them? All of these things should be included within the first couple of days of actually signing up for something. You should be including these things so that people know exactly what to expect. And then, of course, you can send them an email later. If this is a course and it's not starting for a month or whatever, you can send them an email beforehand, reminding them, like, hey, this is what's coming up. Did you join the group yet? Did you sign up in Kajabi yet? So the last thing on for this, the last touch point of onboarding is your actual onboarding call, which obviously you don't need an onboarding call if you're just doing one-on-one sessions. You don't technically have to do onboarding calls, especially if you're doing a course or something that's going to be an evergreen that people can just sign up for all the time. This whole thing should be automated and until you get to the onboarding call portion. So again, in that welcome email, if you are planning on doing an onboarding call, you should include another link in there so that they can schedule that call with you. The onboarding call should walk them through these things and make sure that they don't have any questions or that you are answering any questions that they do have so that everything runs smoothly. Your onboarding sets up the stage for whatever they're going to be doing with you, whatever you have sold to them. This sets the stage for all of that. So if this is a really smooth process, they're going to think working with this person is going to be amazing. This is going to be a great experience, just like the onboarding experience was. So keep that in mind when you're planning out everything that goes through this. And like I said, this can be a very automated system. So as soon as they book with you, they get a payment. As soon as they fill out this whole first portion, then they automatically get this welcome email. Maybe then they get an extra email or they get a link to book the onboarding call, etc. Whole thing that can be automated. You don't have to do manually. And it saves you a ton of time and it makes you look really, really good. So let's just quickly go over the planning process. I talk about planning processes all the time. This is your workflow. And I'm going to give you one example. You can do this different ways, but I just want you to know that the way to be the most productive is by having a process to plan things. So you don't just sit down and think, I need to get this thing done, and you have no idea where to start, what the steps are, or how you're going to finish. So I'm going to use, let me give you a little off the wall example that has nothing to do with business, but obviously I've been in this room for quite some time. And in about 2-ish weeks, I will be finally moving back into my office. You know what's great about that? I am redoing my office. So the first thing I want to think about is what would this workflow look like? So obviously we have the goal. The goal is redo the office and get my ass back in there. But how is that going to happen? So the sections here would be things like taking all the furniture out, painting the walls, hanging things on the walls, decorating, and finding new furniture perhaps. That sounds like a really good idea to me. Deciding what's going back in there, and then moving everything back in. So that's the basic workflow. And those are, the sections would be each major step that has to take place. The tasks would be the things that fall under the section. So for painting, I would have to prep the walls, pick out paint, edge in around the ceiling, things like that. And then you can also create subsections. So I might have a section that's like purchases, and that could be buy paint, pick out new furniture, things like that. So the subsections could fall under decorating. Like there maybe is one section that's decorating, and the subsections would be go to at home, and then task would be pick out pictures. So think about how things work in your life. You could do this just for cleaning. Like, how do you wash the dishes? How do you do laundry? What is your workflow process for that? So obviously, we're running a business, right? What does this have to do with that? Well, it gets you in that mindset of how do the workflows work? If you can determine how your workflow is running from basic things like cleaning, then you can determine how your workflow is running in your business. So the first thing you need to do is figure out how you currently work. So like I said earlier, for this particular Facebook Live, I started outlining everything, brainstorming, then outlining, researching, bullet points, slides, and here I am, right? That was my workflow. So once you have figured that out, you're going to set everything into a timeline, and you determine like about how long things are going to take you, which we're going to talk about that in a second. And then you can have a really great idea of when your deadline is, or if you already have a deadline, when you need to start something. Please let me know if you have any questions about planning process. I do talk about this a lot. I have some blog articles I can share with you that I've written, but I pretty much talk about the planning process and the workflow process in everything that I do. So just let me know and I can share additional details with you. Okay, productivity systems. Yay, productivity. That's what this is all about, right? Let's be productive. But, everything else that we've gone through so far is going to make you productive, but these are specific to productivity, right? These are also going to get you very organized. So there are so many tips for productivity. I'm sharing them every Monday. And there are way more than what I'm about to share with you and what I share on Mondays. There are so many different ways to add productivity into your life to gain back time. But these are just some of the few that I think are really cool. I haven't shared some of these before, so I think there are some really great ideas here that you can try out. And again, this is going to be something that will be trial and error so that you can figure out exactly what works for you. Now, while I go through these, I want you to think about just sit back and visualize yourself sitting down to work on something. What happens when you do that? If you don't already have a system in place, like just really think about how things are working for you right now. Keep this in mind while we go through all these. I want you to think about, do you get right into it? Are you easily distracted? Just keep that in your mind while I go through each one of these, and that will help you choose which one of these you want to test out first. I will also add, before I get into these, every one of these, I think, let me look at my notes. Yeah, every single one of these is going to be for the people who are not big fans of the project management system. So if you love pen and paper, this is for you, this whole section. So the first thing is called Getting Things Done. This is by David Allen. And the concept of this is you simply have a brain dump. You sort your tasks into current actions, current projects, areas of responsibility, 1 to 2 year goals, 3 to 5 year goals, and then general life goals. So your brain dump is literally everything you want to get done in the next 5 years or so. And then putting it all out onto the table and then going through it and categorizing. So this is very similar to what we talked about with folders, right? You look at all of the documents you have and you start to categorize them. So you're doing this with all of the goals you have, and then you start to categorize them. And then you prioritize them. So like I said before, you can easily prioritize some of your later goals, like your 3 to 5 year goals. Those can get done later as long as the goals you're doing now lead up to those, right? So prioritizing, like I said before, is a lot about what's going to make you money. So if we're specifically talking about your business right now, life goals, obviously, whatever is most important to you, business goals, what's going to make you money, and then what absolutely has to be done by you. So your areas of responsibility. Paying people on your payroll doesn't make you money, but those people make you money. So that's a top priority as well. All right, so the next one is making your to-do list the night before. I have shared this with you before. I definitely have shared this before. I'm not sure if this is definitely one of my Monday productivity tips. I just can't remember if it's come out yet. I think it has. So anyway, the whole thing about making your to-do list the night before is if you are like me, you may often lay awake at night thinking about the things you have to do the next day. So making your to-do list the night before gets all of that out of your head. But the main objective here is to have this list of tasks that only are associated with 3 objectives. So you have 3 main objectives for the day at the most. And then all of your tasks align with those 3 main objectives. So keep this in mind because this is going to be what makes you very productive. You're constantly, so like maybe you have 3 objectives for the whole week. Every task you do that week aligns with those. It is not recommended that you have more than 3 objectives that you're working towards on any given day. So then, of course, I've talked about block time and block lists a lot in the past. I will give you a quick overview of these. Block time is when you set a specific amount of time to work on whatever tasks you have. Maybe you're working towards a particular objective in a set amount of time. So what you do with this is you determine what that amount of time is, and then you take a break. And when you come back from the break, you reflect on that block of time that you just completed. So the reason you do this, and you might not have to do it forever, but the reason you do this is so that you can learn, obviously, from it. So you're reflecting on what you did in that amount of time, but you're also reflecting on how long the time was. Did you need a break at an hour and you set a 90-minute block? So like you can adjust that way. The same type of thing goes for the block list, except that you're setting a list of tasks that you want to accomplish before your next break. So you may think, when you reflect on that, you may think that was too many tasks. I should do 5 tasks instead of 10. Or what we're going to talk about at the bottom there. When you get really good at knowing how long tasks are taking you, then you can get very good at your blocked list because okay, this one's going to take me 10 minutes. This one's going to take me half hour. So only those 2 are going to go on that list for that time because I'm gonna want a break by then. Um, Bullet journaling. I'm not sure. I would love to hear if any of you are fans of bullet journaling. Um, I have only recently started really getting into this. I have not personally started doing it yet. My current planner has something. I wouldn't call it bullet journaling, but it is similar in the way that it's laid out. But it has the months, the weeks, and the days in it. Bullet journaling, you start with a blank notebook basically, and you have a key that is bullets. So you use bullet points to decide what your tasks are and like what they fall under. So there's a different bullet point for events. There's a bullet point for a main task, bullet points for subtasks, etc. So if you want to learn more about this, I highly suggest going to bulletjournal.com. I also have a YouTube video that I can share afterwards. But just going to the website, I mean, there's a video on that as well. But you can just scroll through, and it's a great looking website, and it will show you exactly how it works. And I think it's a really good system for people who just totally do not want anything to do with things like Asana or Trello, which I totally get too. I know I teach this stuff, but I don't always use it the way that I teach it because it doesn't always work for me that way. So I want you to remember that you need to figure out the way that it works for you. And it's totally something I can help you with. So if you do have questions, I can give you feedback on what you're trying to accomplish and help you figure out that product or that yes, productivity system that's going to work the best for you. All right, so Seinfeld. I love Jerry Seinfeld, and he has this system that is so great. I'm not sure if you've heard of the "don't break the chain" saying. So basically, what this is that he takes a 1 year calendar. So he put a calendar on your wall. And there's a wall in front of me that I'm putting it. You take a 1 year calendar. You can see the whole year at once, and you decide. Let's say you're going to write a book and you want to write every single day. You put an X on every day that you actually wrote so that when you look at the calendar, you can see what days in a very visual way, you can see what days you did not write. So don't break the chain means keep putting X's in every day. This is a really great way to create some good habits as well. So if you're somebody who you want to go for a walk every day or start meditating, drink, you know, however many ounces of water that you need to drink every day, you can use different markers too. Like if you want to use markers, you have two different things you want to track. You've got an orange and a green marker. You put a little log next to it and say orange is for walking and green is for yoga. And then you cross off every single day that you've done those things so that you have a super visual way of seeing how your work is flowing. And then finally, time tracking. So I mentioned this before, the block list. This is a really great way to get very in tune with how you work. So what I recommend is writing down what time it is when you start a particular task. And then when you finish that task, writing down what time it is again. And then keeping track of how long those tasks take you, especially the tasks that you do weekly. Or, they might not be the exact same task every week, but they're similar. So that then the following week, you can look back at how long things took you and you can plan your week accordingly. This is going to work for you in two ways. One, you may not have given yourself enough time for something and then you felt rushed. So now you know how long it's going to take. And two, maybe you had booked out too much time for something and it made you feel overwhelmed because you had too much stuff on your plate for that week, but then you realized, oh, this actually only took me a half hour. So next week I can schedule it just for just a half hour, and then I can spend the other half hour doing whatever I want. So you get time back. So like I said, tons more productivity systems, but these are just a few of them that I really like and wanted to share with you. And none of them have anything to do with project management system. So let's talk about mindset shifts. I'm very stuffed up today, and I feel like it's affecting how I speak. So I'm very sorry about that. I've also been talking for almost 40 minutes, and which is crazy because I don't think I've ever done this without people asking me questions. Um, so if you're watching, go ahead and ask questions. We can be here all day if you'd like. But again, if you are catching the replay, definitely make sure you tag me in any questions that you have, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. So I'm going to end with mindset shifts. The reason I wanted to include this is that I know it's not technically a system, but I think that once you can be in a more productive mindset, it helps you create the systems. You kind of move past the things that are holding you back so that you can, use these systems well. So of course we're going to talk about procrastination. I am a self-proclaimed queen of procrastination. I love to procrastinate. And, my mom used to say things like, "Oh, you're just like your grandfather. He always liked to procrastinate too." I don't think that this is a personality flaw. I'm sorry, but I'm just a laid back person and I've never missed a deadline. I think that sometimes I'm just more motivated by deadlines than I am by getting the work done. And as long as the work gets done, who really cares, right? So I've listed these myths, and I just want you to be aware that procrastination isn't a bad word, and it's not an insult. I don't think that we should look at ourselves negatively if we are procrastinators. It just means that we work in a different way. It's it's not just an excuse for being lazy. It's not a personality flaw, and we don't lack motivation just because we procrastinate on certain things. I think that when it really comes down to is sometimes you just don't want to do something, so you procrastinate. But I do have other reasons. So these might be the reasons why you're procrastinating. So these are the things that you can think about to maybe move forward from your procrastination, so you don't get stuck. So the first one, fear of failure, we've all heard of this, but also fear of success. So if you listen to the podcast episode that I did with Anna Franzen, we talked about fear of success. And basically this is, you're starting this business and you're very excited about it, but what's holding you back is what happens if I become really successful and I'm too busy for my friends and family? Or I make all this money and I don't know what to do with it. I think I can find ways to spend it. But like there's a lot of things that they're underlying things that you're like, oh, what if I'm super successful and like I have to start taking on um team members and I don't know how to manage people and all of these things, like these are things that you need to figure out what that fear is specifically so that then you can be educated on how to handle that. So if your fear is that um you're going to be too busy and you won't have time for your family, this is the perfect time to create boundaries so that you're only working certain days. And yeah, sure, you're going to get busier, but you're going to take on team members. So this is also a good time, or when you get closer to taking on team members, it's a really good time to learn how to manage those team members so you're not freaked out by it. Perfectionism kind of runs into the same lane where you get stuck. Either you don't start something because you don't think it's ever going to be good enough, or you get stuck in a cycle trying to make it perfect. this Facebook Live was not perfect by any means. I'm super stuffed up to begin with, so I sound weird. I'm losing my voice now, and I've totally messed up a few times. You know, I've stumbled over my words. Nothing's ever perfect. I like Facebook Live better now because when I've pre-recorded stuff, it's a disaster. I end up redoing things a few times because I'm like, oh no, this is terrible. However, after going live on Facebook several times now, I am more comfortable with the pre-recorded stuff because I don't put so much emphasis on it being perfect. So it's just figuring out the things that are holding you back with the perfectionism is really going to help you um stop procrastinating and obviously be more productive. And then of course we have lack of time, lack of resources, and lack of money. Those things are going to hold you back in a lot of different areas of your life. Again, it's there are outside things that are affecting you, that make you procrastinate on something, because really what it comes down to is you're not sure where to start. So, you know, once you once you can get a hang of how long something's going to take you and what you need to get something done, and what the costs associated are, then you can figure out where to start. And then finally, low energy. We all have this problem where we just run out of steam. Take a break. Take a freaking break. Like, you don't need to be full speed ahead all the time. You want to have this really laid back business that allows you to flow with your creativity and be strategic when you need to be, and spend time with your family and your friends and travel. I- Sometimes you just need to take a break for yourself as well. I mean, all the time you should be, but when you're starting to feel that low energy, you're just tired and you're like, ugh, I don't feel like doing this thing, don't do it and take a break. You'll get back to it with a clearer head. You'll have better product at the end of whatever you're creating or working on. And you won't be procrastinating anymore because you'll have that energy. Now, if you get back to it and you're still procrastinating, maybe it's one of these other things and not the energy. All right, so next let's talk about comparisonitis. I have to take a drink though. I am here to tell you that everybody does this, okay? Everyone compares themselves to everybody else. Like, the most natural thing in the world to compare yourself to others. Sucks though, because when you get into this comparisonitis cycle, you're constantly looking at what other people are doing, and you might feel jealous, or maybe you feel a little bit like guilty that you haven't stepped up to whatever level that you've been meaning to step up to. Whatever that may be, there are these ways that you can get past that. So the very first thing is becoming aware that you are comparing yourself to somebody else, and then getting in tune with how you feel, um, specifically the emotion you feel when comparing yourself, and then why. So what is it about this person that you are comparing yourself to, and why do you feel jealousy, or why do you feel guilt? Um, when you figure out why that is, then you can do something about it. You can determine, is this a priority that I need to be focusing on? Maybe I just really like their hair. Maybe I should get a haircut. You know, you also have to remember, which I'm going to talk about social in a second, that people put their best lives on social media. So when you see somebody's Facebook post about this fabulous vacation that they took, and you're like, man, why can't I do something like that? I wish I was making more money so that I could go on this fabulous vacation. You have no idea, first of all, how much money they spent, Secondly, how much debt they're in because of it. Like you're only seeing the surface level stuff. They might not be that happy. Maybe they fought with their spouse the whole time. You have no idea. Maybe their kids were a nightmare and it wasn't that great of a vacation, but they took this really pretty picture of the sunset. So I'm getting off track here a little bit, but just keep that in mind when especially when you're scrolling. People put their best face forward always, especially in business. People tend to do this. That's why we talk about authenticity so much, so that people can relate to us better. All right. So once you've figured out how you feel and why, do these next couple of things. Write down everything you're grateful for, and then list your strengths and your achievements. Just be very truthful with yourself and don't hold anything back. You don't have to share this with anybody. You're not being boastful. Put it down. Every single strength and achievement you have. These can be physical if you want them to be. Anything that you are proud of yourself for having or think that is a good asset. And then continuing your positivity throughout all of this, like maintaining a level of optimism and just general positivity is going to help you, especially if you also pair it with lifting others up. So you see that person that you're slightly jealous of that has the great house and the cool um, trips that they take or whatever. Comment on their post and say, wow, that's awesome. Good for you. And then you will feel that way. When you put that out into the world, you're going to start changing your mindset about it. But then also, if you are in a season of your business and you are not putting out very much. So let's talk specifically about business now, just not just comparing yourself to others, but your business to others. And you're not actually promoting anything right now. You haven't put out any content lately, or you're just feeling down about your business. Limit the scrolling. There's two ways that I do this. One, I have a personal Instagram. I don't follow any business accounts on it, and no business accounts follow me on it. I do this so that when I'm scrolling Instagram on that account, I see only my friends and family. I see pictures of their kids. I just see, funny memes. I follow some celebrities and like funny accounts or whatever, but none of it is business related. So I'm not constantly being reminded of my business while I'm scrolling on there. The other thing I do is on Facebook. I don't follow any groups that I'm in. So when you're on Facebook, I can't really show you because, well, I guess I can show you. There's there's little icons at the bottom on your phone. The first one is for your newsfeed. The second one is for groups. If you unfollow all of your groups, they're still going to be in there. You can still get notifications on certain groups that you're in, but you don't have to see every single thing in your newsfeed if you don't want to. This cleans up your newsfeed. So again, you're only seeing friends and family and personal accounts. And then finally, avoid social media altogether. Especially if you're feeling down about anything, don't scroll. You're just going to feel like shit. You're just going to be like, oh, this person's life is perfect. Mine is crap. I'm never going to be better, blah, 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 blah. Just avoid social media altogether. And actually, I've heard some people will completely remove Facebook and Instagram from their phone when they're not working. So, on the weekends or whatever, so that they're not scrolling when they're supposed to be spending time with their family, things like that. You don't have to go to that extreme because then you just have to add it back on Mondays. But if you have an iPhone and you've just recently updated it, if you scroll all the way to the right, it's like Android has like the drawer thing, whatever. I don't know what they have, but it's basically where all of your apps live. And then, you can set up the rest of your screens however you want. So just remove Facebook and Instagram from those screens and they'll they'll just be where all your apps live. And then you can move them back if you want to, but it is really good practice to just put Facebook to the side and, you know, think it won't be the very first app that you click on when you turn your phone on. Um, I think another cool thing to do is find some apps. Like if you are really truly addicted to your phone and need to scroll something when you're bored, find some other things you can look at, like Pinterest. I love looking at Pinterest. I'll put in something like, um, oh, I don't know, it's Halloween season. So I'll put in Halloween decorations and I will just scroll through all the Halloween decorations or recipes or whatever gets me in a good mood. So knowing what's going to get you in a good mood and looking at things like that versus people is going to help you a lot. Finally, overwhelm. Oh, overwhelm. Everything is overwhelming, right? So if we don't do these things like creating boundaries, taking breaks, and reflecting on stuff, we're going to be overwhelmed. Everything I've talked about today can be very overwhelming. You need to 100%, no matter where you are in your business right now, include these three things in your business. So, creating boundaries is, I cannot even tell you how important that is. It's like the most important thing you can do in your business is to create boundaries. It is not just, oh, now I finally have a business, I'm going to create my SOPs or whatever. No. If you are working full time, part time, whatever, and you're doing a side hustle on the side, how much on the side is it? Is it all the time? Is it every time you are not working, you're working on your business? You need boundaries because you're never going to see your friends and family if you don't create some boundaries. You need to let people know when they can contact you, or if you're like, yeah, sure, you can contact me whenever, but I might not get back to you for a day or two. You need to let people know that. So for example, my boundaries are I don't work Mondays because I work a full-time job and Mondays suck. The last thing I want to do is also be working on my business or having a client on a Monday night when I may have had a terrible day at work. So I only take clients on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And then I will also take occasional clients on Saturdays in the morning. I also block out time on Saturdays to write. So that's another boundary that I have communicated with my fiance. So he knows that every Saturday morning I am um, maybe not just writing, but I'm doing something creative for my business, something that is not posting or whatever. I'm creating, I'm brainstorming. And he knows that and he leaves me alone. On Friday night, I do sometimes work now, but before the pandemic, we always went out to dinner on Friday night. So that was a no. Absolutely no clients, no work. I still actually hold to that so that we can, maybe we'll get takeout and we'll watch a movie. We are starting to go to restaurants again. So, this is something I hold sacred. Is our Friday night day night. And then Sundays, I just kind of keep in flow because it's football season. So we might go watch football somewhere and I may have a few drinks and then who the hell wants to work after that? So if we're doing nothing on a Sunday, I might work on stuff. But otherwise, it's kind of an open day for me and my friends and family. So these are the things you have to take into consideration. What do you want your life to look like? And build your boundaries based on that. Obviously, I always talk about taking breaks. You need to figure out intuitively when a break is necessary, but also scheduling those in so that you don't even get to the point of being like, oh no, I need a break and I'm in the middle of working on something and I don't have time to take a break. If you've already scheduled a break, then you're getting ahead of the problem. And then reflection. I've talked about these retrospective questions many, many times, but here they are again for you. So we have the first four that are very specific to the project itself. But the last three are more about how you feel. So literally, how did you feel? And then, thinking about how you prepared for something, what kept you awake at night, any questions that you want to ask yourself in a reflective manner of whatever you have been working on so that you can look back at it later and know exactly how to deal with it going forward. Is going to prevent the overwhelm. This is technically documentation, right? So you're getting into a flow of documenting. This is another form of organizing and being productive in creating that really good system that will keep you in a productive flow, so that every time you've done something, you've reflected on it, you've answered these questions and maybe some others, you look back at what you did the next time you do something similar. You've already answered these questions, you know exactly how to deal with something, you're not recreating the wheel. Time saved. So, if you have any questions, this has been actually a very long Facebook Live for me. An hour. I have been here talking to myself because I think Marie joined in for a minute and that was but if you have absolutely any questions at all, just let me know in the comments, of course. Make sure to tag me so that I definitely get the notification. And have a wonderful Friday. I did just say I didn't work on Fridays, but it's not Friday night. I'm technically working my full-time job right now, but it's my lunch break. So this is how I get things done. All right, guys. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I will see you. Let's see. I will see you Tuesday, right? Because, yep, Tuesday. All right, cool. Again, hope you have a great weekend. Bye.